So let's talk about my first love. Now, in terms of games, no other, I guess, franchise, I guess, has had more of an influence on my life than Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! And I, the trading card game at least, not specifically the anime. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game and I have this tremendous, almost everlasting, and then stopping, and just an on again, off again relationship. In the sense that I can't ever for say if I'll ever be completely done, because every time I thought I'm completely done with the game, I get pulled back in, or I pull myself back in. Now I don't buy the cards physically anymore. I just play for free online, and I do that a lot at time of this recording. Almost every day I've been playing lately, and I don't think I'm going to be doing it in like 6 months. But 6 months after that, I'll probably be playing it. It's been that kind of thing, and I guess to dig into the history of it, I've talked on this channel before about how I had like, as cool as like my dad is like right now, like he's been on this show before, and he watches anime with me and stuff like that, and we've always had a very good relationship. We have a good amount of stuff in common. We get along very well, a lot better than some people I know get along with their parents. I have no ill will toward my parents. I want to stress that enough. And a manga just fell on one of my shelves. I don't know if the mic picked that up, but I have no ill will toward my parents. And however, they were a little strict on me growing up about certain things. And one of those things was I was not allowed to play video games for like a long time. Like, I didn't play a video game until like 7th, 8th grade ish. And maybe 6th grade. I'd say 6th grade, maybe the earliest. And that was because my dad, I mean, to this day, still sort of thinks that they're kind of like brainless, and sort of like you could be spending your time, doing other stuff. And he'll go on like a rant about how like all of the generation, that's all everybody does. Nobody socializes anymore. Everybody just texts and plays games and stuff. And while some of that's true, um, I I don't think I was also their first kid, so I kind of think that I was sort of, when you're the first kid, I think you're the experiment kind of kid. And so your parents might try and make everything like be perfect for you, and they want you to be like the perfect test tube baby or something. So that's what my parents did with me, and for the most part, it kind of worked out. I was a good student for most of my life. I was successful in a lot of things. Went to college, finished college, did all the whole 9 yards and stuff, whatever. But I had this major disconnect with a lot of people my age in the fact that I didn't play video games for a very long time. Instead, I was really, really into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. And to a lesser extent, the Pokemon card game. And I tried to play Magic, but that was like many years later. But I never liked those as much. But primarily the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. And I loved the game. More so back then. The rules are far different now. But I loved it. I could do it for hours. Like, I had one of the very first games. Like, I was playing the card game before I had even played any video game. But one of the first video games I did ever own was on the Game Boy Advance SP. And it was called Yu-Gi-Oh! Worldwide Edition Stairway to the Destined Duel. And it is my favorite video game pretty much of all time. And I played that so much. Like, I don't think on the cartridge like it counts your hours. It has to be the game I've probably played the most in my life, probably to this day. And like I was playing like a fuck ton of Overwatch recently. Like, and Pokemon Soul Silver. I had a ton of time in that too. But I think I've spent more time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Mostly because that was like one of the first times I can actually like play against actual people. A lot of my early interest in the card game, I would get my parents would buy me like cards, and I would play by myself. Like I would build two decks, and I would legit play a game like by myself and like act like the other person didn't know what the other person had in their hand and stuff. I was kind of a lonely kid for some time. This is gonna sound quite sad, I'm sure, when I listen to this again. But I was not a great. I didn't have a great social life as a kid, and struggled fitting in a lot. So I was alone a lot as a child and like early teenager. So and honestly, really to this day. I mean, I'm a little better now, but I was very fine with just playing by myself, and I learned how to play Yu-Gi-Oh by myself, a trading card game. And my parents, as much as they hated video games, they didn't seem to mind buying me cards. I remember for one Christmas they gave me the Pegasus, Kaiba, Joey, and I think Yugi. They gave me like 3 or 4 of like the starter decks, like all in one Christmas, and they were all in like different packs. Like they were all in like different presents. Like I thought I was just getting one, and I was like, oh cool, I got the Pegasus one. And then they were like, oh, here, open this present. And it was the Joey one, and I freaked out. And then another present was the Yugi one. And, it was awesome. And I watched the show a little bit back then. I've watched the show a little bit over the years, here and there. But they don't follow the rules of the game in the show. And it's kind of too silly for my taste. And now, granted, I've only seen, like, the dub. So I don't know how the original Japanese is. I'm sure it's much darker. And I don't know anything about the manga, but I've been told that the manga is really good as well. My primary interest was in the TCG. And as I got a little older, just about the time I started playing the Yu-Gi-Oh video game, there was this one kid in my class who I sort of became friends with like a little bit, and he also really liked Yu-Gi-Oh too. We actually got the Game Boy Game Link cables, and we would play Stairway to the Distant Duel like linked up, and we would play in person. And then gradually I got, as I made like a few more friends, I would try my hardest to pull them into playing Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I would bug them so much to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I would even bug like my dad. My dad has dueled me before, because I was just really really obsessed. And some of my friends took a liking to the game. Others, it wasn't their thing. The few that did, I did go to some tournaments with. And I actually went to a Yu-Gi-Oh club at my library in town, which I was way older than the other kids that went to that. But it was just an opportunity to play against other kids, which I thought was kind of cool. It did feel weird with the age difference, so I didn't go to that very often. But when you go to the tournaments, it's a whole different scene. I learned very quickly that the decks I was playing would get their ass kicked, because you learn that, like, in any trading card game, it's super pay to win for the most part, and it's those people, especially those who are like older and still playing the game, take it very seriously, and they're just gonna probably destroy somebody that's new at the game. It's not a very friendly game to new players, I will say that. But it was fun. I won a mat at the tournament that I went to. It's like half an hour away. My funny story. My dad entered this like lottery at the card shop for the mat that I won. And for those of you that don't know, the mat is like what you can play the game on. But yeah, I love the game so much, and I think one thing I like most about it is that while I enjoy video games more now than I ever did, Yu-Gi-Oh is almost always different. Like every time, there's so many different decks you can build, so many different strategies, so many different like characters and like archetypes of decks and like play styles, and just like it's like an infinite. I mean, you can find a strategy that you like to do, which I've found myself. But then you have to deal with what your opponent's doing, and they can do a myriad of different things. When I play a video game, it's kind of like you're either shooting a person, or it's, kind of like these like genres of things that stuff just falls into. Like, oh, well, this is just another RPG. Yep, it's a turn-based fighting system. Yep, here we go. And I don't know. I don't like that nearly as much. I think it's way more enticing, like the randomness that a card game has. And there is something to be said about a card game and its like randomness, because it is a lot of it's luck. Like, a lot of it is luck. Like, there is not a ton of skill involved in winning Yu-Gi-Oh duels. It's mainly knowledge, and, well, in real life, it's the ability to buy the cards. But if you're just playing for free online, a lot of it's luck. Like, you could just not draw anything that's going to help you out that turn, and then you can lose. Or you can draw something that wins you the game. And that's not a skill. Like, you just picked up a card, and you have the knowledge to play it. And I realize that there's certain skills that go into playing video games. And I've always like seemed to lack those skills. I think like I'm pretty shitty at video games in general. Like, it took me years just to get diamond rank in Overwatch. So it took me a long time. I think I'm naturally just, it takes me it's hard for me to get good at a video game. I think it's just because I missed out on it for so long, and games don't tend to hold my attention for long enough for me to actually spend the time and invest in getting good at them. Overwatch is an exception. But that's a topic for another video, I think. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, what I've basically done my whole life is I've just found either artwork of cards that I really liked, or just a strategy of how something plays, and just tried to build a deck as best as I could with that. And now the game has what's called a ban list, which they come out with every like couple months or so, to adjust like the ladder of the game. So like if a deck if it's winning all the big tournaments in the world, they're likely going to hit something on it with the ban list, because obviously it's overpowered. So they don't like nullify that deck completely. But now what you have to do as a player is find out another way to reach your win state, or however to reach how you want to play. And I think that's like so interesting. Now, does it suck if you spend all that money and then they ban your cards and then the deck is not nearly as good anymore? Yeah, but I'd rather it be like balanced. And I don't want like a rotation system like Magic has. Like, I want to be able to play all the cards whenever I want, unless, they're on the ban list. Which, most of the time, those cards are on the ban list for a reason. Because Konami doesn't really spend a whole lot of time, like, thinking into shit before they, like, make some cards. I swear to God, sometimes. But my preferred strategy, and this will piss off any even Yu-Gi-Oh fans that I have in my audience, is unfortunately I never really got to build these decks in real life, because any decks I ever made in real life were just kind of like stupid, like I like how this artwork looks decks, which is why I would get my ass kicked at a tournament. Like, I would just come in with like I have an insect deck, I'm gonna win, and then no, that doesn't work. The decks that I love to play online include like stuff like Burn, Final Countdown, Exodia. My absolute new... I've fallen in love with anti-meta Inspector Border Stun. And obviously that's going to sound like gibberish to most people. If you know what I'm talking about, if you know what that card is, oh my god. It is like my favorite thing. I love, and this goes into my sort of like my personality take of how I look at like my name, like Miasma or something. I am not a fan of strategies for the most part. Sometimes I'll play a deck that does this, what I'm about to say, but decks that are just about like overwhelming your opponent with power, or like I would rather have like if I had a superpower, I'd like it to be like poison. Like when I play Pokemon, I like to use poison Pokemon. Like drain my opponent down slowly, or lock him so he can't do stuff. Or I like paralysis, like stuff like that. In Yu-Gi-Oh, the way to do that is you play cards that basically make it so your opponent can't play. Like, you make it so that way they can't summon certain monsters, they can't activate certain cards, they can't destroy certain ones of your cards. You basically just lock them up. Or you can, like, negate a bunch of stuff that they're doing. And it really pisses them off, and it's kind of frowned upon in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. But I don't really care about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community as much. Because I'm just there to kind of have fun. And I think I like winning is fun, and that, to me, is a consistent way of winning. And I am way better at crafting decks like that and playing with the combos that those decks have than I am with creating new decks. That's a talent that I don't have. I'm not someone that says, like, oh, look at this new card they're coming out with. This would work so well in this archetype. There are people that are like that. I don't have that mindset. I like to kind of just, like, troll and fuck around with my opponent and play these, like, things that they're not going to expect. And like win the game by them decking out, or me, drawing Exodia, or just playing, or never attacking. Like, if I could, like, never attack in the game, like, that'd be cool and still win. I don't know. I like that a lot. But yeah, so people would call them, like, cheesy decks. But in fairness, they're also, like, if I were to play in real life, these are very cheap decks to play. Because if you know anything about trading card games, what's meta is what's expensive. And Konami's not stupid, so they make all their really good cards really expensive for the most part. And any deck that wins, like, World Championships or something costs hundreds of dollars, which I would never spend in real life. And those kind of decks usually don't interest me in playing them online either. So I'm going to stick with the troll decks. I'm going to keep being a cheesy Yu-Gi-Oh player. And it's just, Yu-Gi-Oh's a game, I guess I got away from, like, how I was, like, it was on again, off again. I've played for years at a time, months at a time, weeks at a time, gone away, and always come back. Like, middle school years, high school, college, now. I don't think I'm ever gonna really, I see, I can't speak in definites with this. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to buy cards ever again. I don't think I'm going to do that. The game is a little different now than it used to be, and if I did buy cards, it would just be, like, a trolley deck that... Oh, here's the other thing. The trolley decks, like Burn and, like, Final Countdown and Exodia, those decks are usually, like, everlasting. Like, they're usually, like... Their stuff never really gets banned. They're usually relatively cheap, and you can probably play them in most formats. Whereas the other stuff, the really good cards, you kind of have to, like, buy stuff that's in the new sets and stuff just to synergize well. So I could get back into the game in real life, but I mostly play with people on Discord and stuff. I don't really have interest in making, like, Yu-Gi-Oh friends. So, yeah, for now it's just like another side hobby of mine, and it's a good trip like, down memory lane of me, sitting there with a Game Boy Advance for hours playing Stairway to the Destined Duel. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a video someday about, like, my disconnect with, like, other video games and stuff like that, and I'll probably harken back to this. But, yeah, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! It holds a spot in my heart. It probably always will. I still own a fuck ton of cards that are basically trash at this point. Like, they're just, like, I own, like, shoe boxes of cards, like 3 or 4 shoe boxes and, like, multiple binders. And that was a lot of money that I'm never gonna get back, but hey, it made a lot of good memories. If you guys were Yu-Gi-Oh fans growing up, or you still are, let me know down below. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. This is the Bearded Senpai Miasma signing out.